Lord, forgive us for our many sins. Lord, we ask that you bless all the people that's come today, and that we conduct ourselves in a very professional and a courteous manner. Lord, we ask that you, again, that you look over all our military people that put their lives on the line daily for us. Look over our law enforcement. Last of all, again, bless this great county we live in. We ask this all in your son's precious name. Amen. Let's pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to thank each of you for taking time to come out to the March 25th regular meeting of the Guthrie County. Let us get in order here. Is everybody, turn your mic on, Commissioner Smiley, please. Regular meeting of the Guthrie County Board of County Commissioners. Anyone in the audience, if you have business before the board, there will be a time for public discussion. You come forward, state your business, and you will be heard. Before we put a motion on the floor, I call for a motion to accept the consent agenda and the information packet agenda. Does anyone in the audience have any questions concerning the consent agenda or the information packet? Anyone in the audience? All right. If not, we'll turn to the board.
So move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Yeager to approve the consent agenda and the information packet. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Got a second from Commissioner Smiley. Is there any further discussion? Any questions from the audience? Any opposition? No opposition. Motion passed 5-0 to accept the consent and information packet. All right. At this time, I think I'll turn over to Ms. Lanier, and she's going to introduce a gentleman here, Veterans Office.
Yes, Mr. Joe Paul, our Veterans Service Officer.
Joe, are you here? There you are, sir. Come up and, would please.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, staff, and fellow citizens of Gulf County, we are here today to celebrate the proclamation designing Gulf County as a Purple Heart County. I want to thank the Commission, first of all, for their unanimous support of this resolution. The resolution as stated is, whereas the people of Gulf County have great admiration and the utmost gratitude for all the men and women who have selflessly served their country and this community in the armed forces. Whereas veterans have paid the high price of freedom by leaving their families and communities and placing themselves in harm's way for the good of all. And whereas the contributions and sacrifices of the men and women of Gulf County who served in the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedoms and way of life enjoyed by our citizens. And whereas many men and women in uniform have given their lives while serving in the armed forces. Whereas the cemeteries in Gulf County hold the remains and honor the veterans who have served the United States of America in conflict since this country was first conceived. Whereas various other counties within Florida's 67 counties have taken measures to ensure the memory of all their veterans, both past and present, are preserved for all time and all generations. And whereas the County Commission for Gulf County wishes to recognize on behalf of their citizens the continuing contributions to our armed services and protecting our freedoms and America's way of life. Whereas the Gulf County Commission wishes to permanently honor and memorialize all American veterans and their many sacrifices for our country. And whereas the Gulf County Commission wishes to also acknowledge the families and their sacrifices of the armed servicemen and women who guarantee our freedoms and liberties. Now therefore, the Gulf County Board of County Commissioners does hereby proclaim Gulf County as a Purple Heart County, so designated, honoring the service and sacrifice of our nation's men and women in uniform, wounded or killed by the enemy while serving to protect our freedoms enjoyed by all Americans. Duly adopted this 25th day of February 2014, signed Ward McDaniel, Chairman. I am deeply honored, Commission, to be the author of this resolution. The person I replaced, Jim Kennedy, is in the audience today. He and I have talked about this at length. And we're equally honored by the sacrifice that each member of the military gives to this country each and every day. They are a special breed of men and women who give freely of themselves to ensure our country's freedom. The personal and family sacrifice they give should not go unnoticed. Currently, there are 1,772 veterans that live in Gulf County. These veterans contribute in excess of $5,700,000 a year to this country's economy. Now, when I say that's the 1,772 veterans that are currently enrolled in the VA system. There are other veterans who are not enrolled in VA, who are retired, do not require the VA for assistance that are in this county. I don't know how many of those are, but there's a lot of veterans that live in this county. We are a varied group of veterans. Currently, 117 of our veterans that live in this county are above the age of 85. 622 of them are between the ages of 65 and 84. 785 of them are between the ages of 45 and 64. And 248 of our veterans are between the age of 17 and 44. Commission, what that tells you is 58% of the veteran population that lives in this county is under retirement age. The new generation of veterans is coming home to a depressed economy and high unemployment figures. We as citizens need to be ready to lend a helping hand to these younger veterans and their younger families. One such family is that of Mr. Kenneth Bloom, Jr., who is in the audience today. Kenneth, would you stand, please, with your son, Aiden? Kenneth is a Purple Heart recipient and a veteran of the Iraqi War. He had the unfortunate experience of having an IED blew up right in front of him. That Iraqi war, my friends, we're still fighting today. He and his young family need our support and thanks for the sacrifice they gave that we can continue to have freedom of speech and of religion in this county. Please join me in giving him a resounding thank you for his sacrifice. As I close, I want to thank each of you for what you've done today, and I want to thank each veteran for their service. And of course, I got to give a plug. I want to remind them that the Veterans Office is open Tuesday and Wednesday from 7 to 5:30, and I'm here to help. Business as usual. We want to help the veterans. There's nothing that we will not help them with if it's within our power to do. Lastly, I want to say may God bless the citizens and leaders of Gulf County, the United States of America, the land of the free, and the home of the brave. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
So moved to approve the proclamation. Mr.
Motion by Commissioner Yeager, second by Commissioner McLemore. Any input from the audience on this?
I just would say that, Gulf County has tried to recognize its veterans in many ways. One of the parks in District 3 is named after Veterans Park. About 2 years ago, if y'all will remember, we worked with Bay County Commission and named Highway 22 Bay to Gulf Veterans Highway. And Rodney Herring has actually requested us, and Halsey Bashir's got a bill before the House coming up that would name 71 from outside the city limits on up through Wewall, up to Wewall, the Veterans Parkway. So we appreciate the veterans in our community.
Okay, have a motion, a second. Any further discussion from any of the board members? Any from the public? If not, motion passed 5-0.
Chairman, next is our PDRB recommendations.
All right, Mr. Richardson is unable to be here with us this morning. Counselor, are you going to make the
I'll be happy
presentation?
to. I'll be happy
All
to,
right,
Mr.
you
Chairman.
have the floor, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Our most recent Planning Development Review Board was held on March 17th. It was properly noticed and advertised. We had a quorum of our PDRB, and we had 2 applications. You have a memorandum in your packet and a presentation from the planner. There were 2 variance requests. The first was from a Carolyn Rankin, parcel ID 06351-005R, located on Windward Street in Cape San Blas. It was a road setback to meet the CCL landward setback. The PDRB voted 3-0 unanimously to recommend a 10-foot road setback variance with the structure not to be closer than 10 feet to the front right-of-way line due to the coastal construction line and the DEP's classification of the primary frontal dune. There was a review of the land development regulations, specifically 2.0507, and the 4 criteria required for variance requests and to grant them. And after the planning board's review of those variance requirements, they voted unanimously 3-0 to recommend that variance to this commission.
So moved to go with the planning board's recommendation.
All right, we have a motion to accept the planning board's recommendation for the variance on the Carolyn A. Rankin partial. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second by Commissioner McLemore. Any discussion from the public? Anyone that has any concerns or questions concerning this variance? If not, come back to the board. Does anyone on the board have any concerns or any questions? If there being no opposition, this motion to grant this variance passes 5-0. All right, Mr. Turner.
Mr. Chairman, the second application last week was with regards to a variance request from an Ellis Smith, parcel ID 03806-080R, located in Veterans Park, Beacon Hill subdivision on the Gulf side of U.S. Highway 98. And it's a building setback variance request for next to the park. The PDRB did not have a quorum due to voting conflicts of interest and recommended that this be turned over to the county commission for your consideration of the variance request. I believe the applicant has a representative here today.
Does, if there's a representative, would he please come forward? Mr. Husband, if you would, please.
Good morning.
Morning, Jay.
I'm going to walk up, hand these out.
Sure, come on.
I've got the packet. And an area that's loosely attached. If you will, I will read the project description, and then I'll explain the aerial after that. In December 2013, a minor replat was recorded for the Gulf County parcel 03806-80R and parcel ID 03806-082R. The following variance is requested for the parcel ID 03806-80R, the Lot 2B. The warranty deed for the said lot is recorded in the Gulf County OR Book 519, page 189, and it is attached in the packet. The request for the variance is requested due to the irregular shape of the lot. The angle of the boundary line does not allow for the option to position the proposed residence in a manner that will not extend seaward of the seawardmost house on the adjacent properties without encroaching in the 9.5-foot setback on the northwest property line. Due to the nearby coastal construction control line and permits that have been issued, thus forming a defined build-to line, we expect DEP to request to locate the proposed residence as far landward as possible. Both of these issues combined, the triangular shape of the parcel and the DEP permitting, a variance is being requested to encroach into the 9.5-foot setback on the northwest property line. The footprint of the proposed residence has been reduced as much as feasibly possible to fit the best suited home on the lot in order to stay landward of the build-to line. The proposed residence is a 2-story structure with a small exterior deck on the front. In order to receive a FDEP CCCL permit, we believe that the issue should be addressed prior to submitting a FDEP permit application in order to allow the structure to be placed landward of the build-to line. At this time, we'd like to request a variance for this parcel to allow the structure to encroach 9 foot to the northeast setback in order to satisfy FDEP requirements. I've also attached all of the attachments that are in there in the packet there for you. If you will, look at the aerial that's been attached here. Basically, the client is asking to encroach into the property line that's shared property line between the county parcel and his parcel. And I've placed the approximate CCCL build-to line there due to recent permitting in the area. So we've updated as much as possible. We don't expect that line to change more than about 3 feet at the very, very most. So we're showing a possible 27.1 foot long house total. And that's not even hardly feasible there. So it's going to be less than, it should be less than that. And that's up near the roadway. There is no room to go more east and go towards the road. There's no room left on that parcel. So the proposal is to go 9 foot into the shared property setbacks. And as an effort, my client also recognizes the fact that the parcel pretty much cuts off access to the beach from the shared park there, the county park. And in an effort, he's willing, I've outlined in a bold line, a 0.24 acre parcel that he's willing to donate to the county in an effort to try and let if you notice right up under where it says approximate FDEP build-to line, that's where the bench is, right below that. And there's some pictures in the back of the packet. But that's where the bench is. So we've given about a 50-foot wide piece right there away from the bench, and basically just came down parallel to the line that's just to the south of us there. And that encompasses about 116 by 183 triangle that he's willing to give right there back to the county.
Anything else, Mr.?
No, sir, that's it.
All right, let me maybe for some clarification here, people. Just briefly. We're talking about a piece of property out at Veterans Park, out on St. Joe Beach. Now, we have part on the hillside of 98, and it goes across 98 down to the water side. This land we're talking about, that this gentleman, what'd you say his name, Mr. Smith?
Yes, sir.
He owns an odd piece of land in there. Across the street, and it butts up to land that belongs to the Department of the Interior. It can never be built on. The county can use it. And what this gentleman is asking us, and the planning board, for some reason, moved it to the board here, that's fine. They have that. They can do that, and we'll settle on it. What Mr. Smith is saying, people are willing to give him 9 feet to join up to the property line of this Department of Interior property. He will come down because I wish we had it up here where you could really see it, and anyone wants to. This Department of Interior land, this public land, we have there's a walkway here. We can't get to the water without going across private property. What he's saying, if we will grant him 9 feet up here on 98, he wants to put another house there, which will go on the tax roll. In return, if we'll grant him this, he will give us 0.24 acres, which will give us about a 50-foot strip of public access to get to the beach. So you could come out of Veterans Park, cross 98, walk straight to the beach without encroaching on anyone's property. Is that basically what the man's asking?
Let me make sure I understand it. I don't think he's asking for us to give him any property. He's asking to build
No.
into the
Yeah,
setback.
he's just asking for a variance. He's
Okay.
gonna give us the property,
And-
and
and
it'll
in-
be deeded to the county.
And
We'll
in ex-
own this property right here.
Exchange, he's going to give us 116 feet of Gulf front.
Yes, sir.
That's what he's giving us.
Okay.
It's not that he's just asking us to give a variance where he can build a building here or a home or whatever, anyway, a rental. In turn, then we've got another public access. We've got a lot of highway frontage here. This dock comes down, but it don't go to the water. We have to cross private property, so then, because Gulf County doesn't have a lot of public accesses, I hate to tell you, a lot of people have to go to Bay County over there. They have pull-offs and walk down. But anyway, that's basically what this is. Am I fairly
sir.
close there?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay, we recognize Commissioner Bryan.
first of all, I disagree that we don't have access to the beach there. Indeed, we do have access to the beach. Property owners on the beach have to the mean high water line, and the county property that was received from the Bureau of Land Management does go to the mean high water mark. We don't need Mr. Smith's property to access the beach. That would be my argument. And I do have some questions about this situation. And Mr. Novak, I think that you may be able to help me with this as well. The parcel that Mr. Smith bought, that he did the replat on in 2013 in December, the minor replat, it appears to me that he did a minor replat in 2012 of the same property. Are you aware of that?
No.
Go ahead, you have the floor.
The parent parcel, I have the minor replat here. When he purchased the minor replat, when he purchased the parent parcel, he did a minor replat in 2012 where he divided the property into two parcels. And that's fine. He went back and did a corrective replat and just changed the property line just a small amount. This is actually the parent tract from 2012 that he purchased. In December of 2013, he went in and did another minor replat from one of those parcels that he had already divided. And it is my understanding that under our land development regulations, that you can only develop a parent parcel once into two parcels. Is that correct?
My understanding.
And if you go back in and try to divide again, you cannot use a minor replat. You need to do a subdivision. And my question is, how did this minor replat get done in December of 2013? Did that come before the board? I couldn't find it in the minutes, and I'm not saying that, I'm great at searching the minutes, and maybe I've missed something, but can you help me understand how it got done?
I don't have the 2013. If you're saying the parent track was taken from 1 to 2, and you're saying it was a minor done again, I'm not aware of that.
The December 2013 minor replat is in our packet. So when they do a minor replat, does it have to go to the PDRB and does it have to go to the board?
It would, but you have, like I said, if there was a corrective, if there was a corrective done on the original minor replat, then that would be permissible. If you're taking a parent from 1 to 2, then it cannot be subdivided again, that's correct.
So when they
I'm not familiar, like I said, in terms of the corrective deed, I don't have that.
when they do the minor replat, for instance, the one in 2013 that's in our packet, does that have to go to the PDRB and to the board for approval? That minor replat in December of 2013?
The minor replat, if it doesn't have a variance request in front of it, I do not believe it would go back before the PDRB.
Okay. Well, this
But I
is,
don't have that history.
so a minor replat is done without going to the,
If there's no variance required,
PDRB.
that's
Okay.
correct. As long as it meets the LDRs, it'll be fine.
well, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman,
go ahead.
this is the parent track from 2012, and it was divided once, and then it was divided again in 2013, and that violates our LDRs. We have a case on point from 2009, which was Johnson versus Gulf County and Jay Risch and other parties, whereby Mr. Risch divided a parcel more than once, and the appellate court said that we were in violation of not enforcing our own law, land development regulations. And Mr. Smith has done precisely the same thing. We have this case on point in Gulf County, and as the commissioner for this district, it's clear to me that there is not enough space in that parcel to have divided it into 3 parcels to start with, had he gone through the proper process and done a subdivision rather than a replat. The way he wants to situate this structure on that improperly developed lot would be at an angle and right along the property line to the park. So essentially, when you're on the park property, you're going to have this house at an angle right in front of you. And I am going to say to this board that I would ask this board to deny this variance, and I would ask our attorney to look at this replat. I believe this is an illegally done minor replat, and we need to address that issue before we even consider the variance.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Bryan. Let me ask you this. Yes, some things have come to light here. I do remember the Rish Johnson situation we had. Want motion to table this, so we can look farther, and what do you want to do now? It's in your district, and
I would like to make the motion to deny the variance and to ask our county attorney to review the minor replat from December of 2013.
In discussion, Jack, do you know anything about the 2 replats of this particular property?
No, sir, I'm not sure how it got there. We just worked on this minor replat of 2013. So there is a lot 2, a lot 2A, and a lot 1. It is recorded, so that's what we were basing
Okay.
all of our.
As
And
far
the
as
2012 is recorded also.
Okay, I need to look at that 2012, and we
2012.
do need to review that. However, if that's not the case, if it's a legal replat, it makes sense for us for Gulf County to take 116 feet of Gulf front and allow a variance to the setback. It makes sense for Gulf County people. But we do need to, I mean, there's some good points, so I would say let's table it instead of denying it.
Well, I can show you right here. I have the replat. Here's the parent track. Parent track. Here's the 2012 replat. Now, it was corrective. They had this little, they just corrected the property line right here. It was a very minor correction. So he went from, this is his parent parcel, he went to 2 parcels. Then he took this parcel and went to 2 parcels again. That is illegal.
I need to review this some more.
These are all recorded
And like I
documents.
said, I mean, we're basing everything off of what was provided to us by the surveyor, for this minor replat, so.
My motion stands. My motion is to deny the variance and ask the attorney to review the 2013 minor replat.
I could support something if you just table it. That way it won't have to go back through the whole process. Let's just table the replat, let the attorney review it, and if it is a replat that's not allowed, then it'll be done.
Commissioners, if I can also, I'm
Wait a
sorry,
minute.
go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
we've got a motion here to deny this variance. Let's keep it in order here.
I have just another
go ahead.
question. So, Mr. Novak, is there anything in place, can a landowner just go in and divide their property, just draw the replat and go in and record it and divide it?
If they'll go through the planning department, if they're compliant with the LDRs, they can get that approved. And like I said, without David here, I don't know, you're referring to the second replat, I don't
Talk
know.
about the process in general. We won't talk about this specific, since
That's
Mr. Richardson isn't here. But the process in general, if I want to divide my lot, can I just go to the planning department and say, here's my parent tract, here's how I want to divide it into 2 parcels, and then go record it?
No, you have to go through the planning department, make sure it complies with our comp plan or LDRs.
And going through the planning department, does that just mean that our planner signs off, or does it have to
If-
go before the PDRB?
Does not have to, if it meets our land development regulations.
So what's the process of the planner signing off? Is there a document that he,
Like I said, I'm not sure what the approval is for David
Okay.
Indent.
we're not certain about the process?
There's an application under the LDR, and there's a fee, and there's a review process that the county goes through to make sure it complies.
Okay, so what I would like to do then, I will amend my motion. What I would like to do is table this and ask at the next meeting that if Mr. Richardson is available, that he come, and Mr. Novak, maybe you can help us and the public with the process so that we don't have these issues and we don't end up in court. So we can make some clarification, and if we need to be more clear to the people who are dividing their land, we'll do that. So my motion will be that we table this and have it on the agenda for full review at the next meeting.
All right, gentlemen, you heard the motion. Got a second from Commissioner Smiley. Before we vote, have any input from the audience on this? All right, if not, is any opposition to the commissioner's motion to table? Being no opposition, it will be tabled by a vote of 5-0, and we will address it at our next meeting.
Mr. Chairman, just for the applicant's purposes and for the public, there'll be no renotice of the hearing. It'll be on our agenda for April 8th. There'll be no other advertisements, just carried to the next meeting.
Mr. Richard, unfortunately, due to a illness, he was unable to be here, could shed a lot of light on this, and also I don't see, I don't see any of the members of the board here, so let's just play on the safe side here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anything else, Commissioner? All right, okay. Now. Okay. All right, at this time, we'll go into our county staff business. Sumner, get to go first, I think. Madam Clerk, anything before the board today?
I don't have anything at this time, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Herring?
Mr. Chairman, I only have one item this morning. I received an email that I have forwarded to each of you. Mr. Daniel Altsenser with DEP asked that I let the public know today. The Constitution Convention Museum State Park will be having a public workshop, and this will be Thursday, April the 10th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. This is going to take place behind us at our Emergency Operations Center. They are giving a presentation of proposed unit management plan update for the museum, and they have asked that any and all commissioners, public, anyone that is interested in this subject, that they please attend. That's all I have.
All right, and state the time and the date again, just for the public.
Thursday, April the 10th, 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
PM now. 7
PM Eastern Time at our
okay.
Emergency Operations Center.
All right.
Lynn, did they say what I think they've before wanted to close that thing down and not man it. Did they say in there what they want to do? We had to fight this issue before, but
Let's see. They are going to review the main points of the proposed management plan and recap comments from public workshops. A discussion of the park's draft management plan between a panel of advisory group members specifically appointed to participate. It says most members are already familiar with the plan. I can pull that for you and try to find out what that is if you'd like.
Any more?
That's all I have.
Whitfield? Thank you. Lowry? Mr. Danford? Manuel? Ms. Kapinski?
The only thing I have is the extension of the jail medical director contract, which we're very satisfied with Sacred Heart, and the attorney's going to bring that up.
Thank you. Attorney?
Mr. Chairman, the first item I have today is the Mexico Beach Reef Association. Each year, they request the opportunity to be out in your Beacon Hill Park for their Kingfish tournament. I believe it's in August of each year. The chairman of their association has provided the county an application to sign off on permitting them to use that location for their event. Each year, they provide the required insurance, adding the county as an additional insured. And we'd like, they've asked for a motion of the board to authorize the chairman to sign the application permitting the use of the park, subject to those insurance requirements.
Okay,
So moved.
so move. All right, it's in your district. All right, we have a motion to grant this,
Second.
second from Commissioner Yeager. Anything from the public? Any public input? All right, any further discussion with the board?
Mr. Chairman, may I
Yes.
ask one thing? Ms. Bryan, do you know if they're going to require power again this year? Do we need to coordinate that like we did last year?
I can check with him and let you know. Thanks
Okay.
for
Yes, ma'am.
inquiring,
Thank
and
you.
I'll give him a call. Thanks, Lynn.
All right, any further discussion on the board? Any opposition? No opposition, motion passed 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, the second, Mr. Hammond referenced the jail medical director. As you know, Dr. Pablo's been our medical director at the jail for the past few years. You authorized me to negotiate a contract extension with Sacred Heart for this coming year. It is coming up on the expiration. The only change that we're asking for at this time is they've indicated that Dr. Rick Bruner will be our medical director from Sacred Heart. So they've made those amendments with your approval and our review of the protocols that he'll provide versus Dr. Pablo. Subject to that review and those conditions, I'd ask for your approval to authorize the chairman to execute that contract.
So moved, Mr. Chair. Give you the authorization.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Yeager. We have a second by Commissioner Smiley. Discussion, any input from the public? Or is there any further discussion with the board members on this? No opposition? Passed 5-0. Next.
Mr. Chairman, in speaking with the clerk in the past week or so, there was a review of tax deeds that are coming up on their expiration. I believe Ms. Norris and Ms. Jenkins have discussed that. Historically, the county has not had assessed properties that exceeded the statutory amount of $5,000 on the assessment roll. However, now we do have a few properties that Ms. Norris has provided to us that do exceed that $5,000 amount. Under Florida Statute 197-502, under Section 3, it deems that the county shall apply for the tax deed on those county-held certificates in properties that are assessed at a value over $5,000, and then uses the word may apply for tax deeds that the value does not exceed $5,000. So we're at a crossroads where in the past, I think historically we looked, the county in the past, they did not exceed the $5,000, and there was not an application for those tax deeds. She's provided a list through Ms. Jenkins' office of several properties that are now in excess of $5,000, and Ms. Jenkins, Ms. Norris, and myself would just like the direction from the county as to move forward to apply for those tax deeds under the statutory requirements.
All right. Two words, shall and may. Which one we're going there?
We're at the point now where we shall.
Shall, okay, that has a different light on it. All right.
Being that this shall, Mr.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'll motion to
Will do.
proceed with that.
All right, there you go. Is that a motion?
Yes.
Do that. Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay.
And Commissioner Yeager made the motion, second by Commissioner McLemore. Any input?
I don't know if Ms. Norris may want to add
All right,
something.
Yeah, I would
Morris, I know
like-
you said you'd,
You had
Back.
17 county-held.
do what now?
You have 17 county-held tax certificates that are set
17,
to
okay.
expire. Only 3 of those meet the must requirement that you have to do something with. And I would also like to recognize Deputy Tax Collector, Miss Christine Strader. She deals with these on behalf of the tax collector, Jenkins, who couldn't be here today. So if y'all have additional questions on her process, she is in the audience for you. I would just note that, like I said, there's only 3 that apply.
We have the 17.
And actually, you know, some of them we can mark off just because of, there's one that's maybe ineligible due to bankruptcy, so I'll have to get with the attorney on that. But if your motion is good as far as the 3 that we must, but just to give you information on, there's 17, but only 3 of them apply at this point that we must do something.
All right. Motion stands, your second stands. Any Any more? Again, I go to the audience. Any further here on the board? For opposition, motion passed 5-0. Back to you, Counselor.
Mr. Chairman, just to update the commission, as well as the public, we had our most recent code enforcement hearing on 355 North Diana Street. We appeared before the special master with regards to a clean and lien and a notice of violation of our county ordinances. Ultimately, we had a signed order from Special Magistrate Grover enabling the property owner to have, I believe it was 3-week period, to bring the property into compliance, otherwise issuing the county the ability to clean and lien the property. And that was issued on March 12th by Special Master Grover. The next item I have, Mr. Chairman, is a follow-up to our Gulf County Healthcare Trust Executive Committee meeting. Mr. Chairman, yourself and I attended that meeting most recently that they have, and at that meeting they provided the current discretionary sales surtax report. There was a discussion at that meeting that we could possibly provide that quarterly report that we get from the Healthcare Executive Committee in possibly our information packet for the public to have a quarterly report as to the year-to-date collections we're getting from the sales tax. I believe, I don't know if you have any other comments from that committee meeting, but if there is no opposition to that, we'll include that we receive from the Executive Committee and the Chief Financial Officer for the county in those reports in the future.
I don't have any. We had to cut short there to attend another meeting, but I don't.
Just to update you all, the beach ordinance, the business license, and the filming ordinance will be advertised for April meetings, as well as the administrator ordinance, which has been advertised on the upcoming March 27th circulation for a public hearing on April 8th. There's no objection. If we can, I have the Cinnamon Hill abandonment resolution. It's in your packet, and I'd like to introduce that, if I could, to the commission.
Or do you want to go ahead and address the
If I
Cinnamon
could.
Hill?
If I could.
Okay,
At your-
then we will we'll move it up above board business. Continue on.
At your most recent meeting, you had a presentation of the application that was advertised in the local circulation on February 25th, and it was for a hearing on the abandonment of various right-of-ways and roadways in the Beacon Hill area. Those legal descriptions were provided, and in your packet, you have a resolution required by statute for the abandonment. We've included that in our packet for today. The resolution, I'll just read it by the title, a resolution of Gulf County Board of County Commission whereby granting the petition of the Cinnamon Hill Property Owners Association for the abandonment of said roadways and right-of-ways and directing county departments for assistance in abandonment and implementation as follows. It's a recital of the legal descriptions which are attached, and I'd like to just read the 3 whereas clauses or the conditions that will be required on this abandonment. It's the Gulf County Commission hereby abandons the stated roadway and right-of-ways as defined herein, following proper notice, public hearing, and authorizing vote of the Board of County Commissioners. Be it further resolved that the Board has accepted this petition for abandonment based in part on the noticed public hearing, Board comment, and discussion, and the detailed conditions and affirmative representations of the Association and its legal representative presented in its written submissions to the official county record, and its testimony that include but shall not be limited to the proper permitting, road improvements to county and state specifications, stormwater management, and exclusive maintenance obligations in perpetuity to maintain those required standards. And be it further resolved that the Board directs its county staff to provide said resolution to the petitioner for its final implementation and fulfillment of the stated conditions and obligations of the association. Again, I just wanted to highlight it's required by statute after we have the public hearing that we introduce this resolution for the county commission's approval, and they'll become recorded as part of public record. So I offer it to the commission following public comment, if any comments on the resolution.
Comments from the public. Any landowners that owns land in this Cinnamon Hill or adjacent to it? One from the public.
So move to proceed with the resolution, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we have a motion to proceed with the resolution from Commissioner Yeager.
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Bryan. Is there any public input on this? All right, is there any further discussion with board members? There's no opposition. Motion passed, 5-0. Mr. Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next item I have is with regards to an update and a follow-up to your economic development contract. Following your acceptance and instructions at your most recent county commission meeting, the preferred partners appointed by you to the Economic Development Alliance met with the full board on Tuesday, February 25th, and then again on March 18th. At that March 18th meeting, following the county's tentative acceptance of the proposed model, there was a discussion at this meeting amongst the 5 board members and your 3 county partners, and the 8 collectively discussed various action items to come back with the recommendations to you to move forward. There was a unanimous support that the county take back the designations for the Economic Development Alliance and notify the various state agencies of the county's assumption of those duties. The second recommendation was that the EDA transfer to the county clerk's office with an accounting of the funds that they have currently in the Economic Development Alliance Incorporated, minus an amount of $1,000 for outstanding administrative fees and accounting obligations that they may still have, and some various bills. That was the second recommendation. They moved on to a discussion of proposed models, and there was various models recommended to by the board members to the partners at the meeting, in terms of what the makeup of the board would be, of how many people would be on that board, whether it be elected officials, various appointed individuals from certain sectors in the community, in the business sectors. There was recommendations from 5 to 7 to 9 member advisory board appointed by this commission, and how those appointments would term out, whether it be 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. Those recommendations to your 3 county preferred partners, and to come back to you all and to take action on those items. So if I can, I'd like to have you each address each of those by motion, first to take the designation back, and then we can move through each one.
So move, Mr. Chair, to
Okay.
take that.
Second. Okay, motion, Commissioner Yeager, second by Commissioner McLemore, to accept back anything from the public on this. Turn to EDA. All right. Any further discussion among the board members?
I would just like to add,
Commissioner Bryan, you're recognized.
thank you. I would just like to add that I'm opposed to taking the designation back. I know that the discussion has been that the TDC model is successful and that we should model the EDA after the TDC. But I would argue that tourist development and economic development, although there is some economic development in tourist development, they are very different animals. And dealing with bringing in business owners and companies is not the same as promoting tourism in the community. And we have a great TDC board, and we have a great TDC director, and I'm very thankful for that. But the solution to our economic development issues is not to make this a county department and to hire a county employee. I think it is a tremendous mistake, and it's moving back in the wrong direction. We have developed a great economic development board that this, in my opinion, this Board of County Commissioners has not supported the way that we should. We should be supporting that board, funding that board, and allowing them to get the job done. Unfortunately, Mr. Sellers was sick and had to leave, and we had a bit of a setback, but we should be supporting the board that we put together. So I'm completely opposed to this. I think this is bad for our community, and companies coming in are not going to just want to deal with another county department. They already have to deal with the county. We need an independent economic development driver that we do fund, so we need oversight. Clearly, we need oversight, and we need communication, but we don't need to be running it. And I just wanted to make that statement, and before you take when you take the vote, I will be opposed.
That's good. What I understood right now, being involved with this, the board is wanting to we'll just umbrella it back under us. We can see what kind of directions we're going here. We really, I look around, we were going to, I'll use an example, just like this port out there. The only thing we're really growing out there is weeds. Hopefully, we're trying to get something to the governor and the United States Senate and the House of Representatives, but until I see something other than that, I think we need to bring, I'm going to follow the recommendation. I respect your position on this, but I'll have to, as far as myself, I'll have to follow the recommendation. Board. Now, you placed a motion on the floor, is that
Yes,
correct?
yes, sir.
I'll second. Second this motion. All right, is there any more input from the public? All right, any more discussion from any of the board members? If not, we'll call for a vote. Any opposition to this?
I'm opposed.
All right, Commissioner Bryan, you oppose? Any other further? Motion passed 2-1. Okay?
Mr. Chairman, the second item was the transfer of the funds. The most recent accounting had approximately, and don't have the specific, roughly $68,000 that will be transferred back over to the county, to the clerk's office with that final accounting. And that was a unanimous recommendation of your Economic Development Alliance contracted party.
So moved for that, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Yeager. Second by Commissioner McLemore. Any public input? Money's coming back. Any further discussion, board members? Any opposition? Not, motion passed 5-0. Next.
The third item, Mr. Chairman, is on my side, which is you have a binding contract right now for the EDA as a not-for-profit entity to perform these EDA services. They're obligated to continue to perform them. I need authorization from this commission to send them a letter releasing them from the remainder of that contract.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, back over to Commissioner Yeager, motion.
And a second.
Back to Commissioner McLemore, second. Anyone from the public, this board not releasing them from their contract? Any further discussion? Any discussion with the board members? Any opposition? Not, this motion passed 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, the remainder of the discussions with regards to a proposed model, you had originally 2 weeks ago it come back to you that it come back under the county with a county executive director as a county employee heading up an advisory board. As I mentioned at that last meeting, there were several models introduced. With the direction of this commission, the staff can go back and put those models to paper or come back and make a recommendation to you of what the recommendations of that collective EDA and county partner meeting amounted to, and then let you all decide from there. If there is a public advisory board model that you've discussed at your last meeting in this one, then there would be applications under your county policy for people to fill out, similar to all your other advisory boards. And then after that, the county commission, after the proper public records and sunshine training and appointment by this county commission, will be appointed to that advisory board. So, it's just a direction from the county commission.
Go ahead, Commissioner McLemore.
I don't see where they need to come back before the board for approval for the model. You know, we have the committee's recommendation already on this, and we have the staff in place. I think they can handle it.
Okay. Mr. Attorney, did you have something to add to that?
I just wanted to touch on the last two EDA meetings. You instructed your three partners to attend those meetings. There was a discussion amongst the EDA board that you contracted with and the county representatives on various models, and there was good discussion. It was a long discussion at those meetings, but there's various advisory numbers of how many you all want to appoint, whether it be 5 members from the community, 7 members, what are the criteria, what business sectors, are there elected officials from the cities, our cities have appointments. So at this point, if you have direction for the staff, if it's those 3 as your economic development appointees to come back with some kind of recommendation to you all in 2 weeks, they can certainly do that. All we know for clarity is that you all have said that it's coming back under an executive director and going to be a county employee running the EDA. With regards to the advisory board, that's what we'd need if you want to have the staff come back and make a recommendation to you on that. But
I think
we need
should
that
have
direction.
Something in writing to
just
review
need to know.
from the advisory committee, whoever is coming up with this model. I think we have to have something to review. I don't think it's prudent of us to say just these three folks that are on the board to just, it's not fair to them either to just go off and do it without any direction.
I'd like to see something, I'd like to have some input, and I'm sure all 5 board members would like to have some input with staff on how that model goes to. So, I mean, I don't have an issue with bringing it back. At the end of the day, Mr. Butler, you're going to be the guy that does the hiring and firing, and that's you've got that authority. So, at the end of the day, you're going to be the one kind of directing that. So, I don't have an issue with them bringing back something for this board.
Even if it's more than one suggestion, I think we should have something to.
That's our job. It should come here, there. Commissioner Smiley, do you have any input on this?
I recommend they just bring us back the recommendations and we look at them from there.
Good. Commissioner McLemore?
All I gotta say is, that's what we pay that man over there for, the administration.
But they elect us to look out after there, so we.
In the meantime, again, just to emphasize, if there's any interest in the community to fill out under your policy, the advisory board applications in anticipation of the county coming up with some form of an advisory council. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have this time.
All right. You want a motion on that or not? You need one?
I mean, I believe the directive to the staff is to come back with some recommendations.
Good
so.
deal. Good enough. All right. Anything else, Mr. Counselor?
No, sir.
Thank you. Butler.
Mr. Chairman, well, garbage RFPs, we got them worked on, we got them on the county website, RFP and specification for garbage. We have a pre-bid conference on the 3rd from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock.
That's April.
April 3rd. And hopefully we'll get a lot of people interested in providing that service to us.
Good.
And 2, between now and the 3rd, anything, you take a look at it, it's on the website, we give you a copy of it. Anyone's got any ideas, any comments, we can add those to the conversation on the 3rd when we talk to everyone. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you, sir. Sheriff? No, sir. Nothing? All right, that's great. Okay. This time we'll go to the board members. I'm going to recognize Commissioner Yeager. We'll start with him.
Just a couple things, Mr. Chair. First, as the county attorney mentioned, we're working on the ordinance for the beach. And what I'd like to do, in talking with some of the members of the public and that, is organize a little committee to fine-tune that thing. And, have myself and the county attorney, obviously, and Jennifer Jenkins, have Pat Hardman, because she represents so many down there. I'm not sure if you would like to put one on the committee, because some of these issues certainly will involve yours. So I don't know if you've got anybody in mind now, but if y'all allow me to, let's establish that committee so we can get some public input on. I want to get this thing right so we don't have to go back to it. And so if you would get a name, that'd be great. We'll start that committee.
Okay, that's great. Mr. Yeager?
The only other thing I've got is we finally, after several years, have got a hearing scheduled. I got word yesterday from DC that we've got a hearing on our COBRA issue. It's going to be April the 8th at 2 o'clock. I'll be testifying before the committee on that issue, and it's something that we've been working on for a long time and have yet to get it to this point. So I think there's a lot of movement from the folks that we hired, a lot of movement from Congressman Sutherland and his staff, a lot of movement from the meetings that we had up there a couple of weeks ago, and they finally said let's give them a hearing and have scheduled it in 2 weeks. So the attorney and the administrator and myself will be going to testify before congressional committee on April the 8th on the COBRA issue to remove the COBRA from Cape San Blas area, from a certain area of the Cape San Blas. So just for the general public to know, hopefully we'll have an answer during this congressional session of whether we're successful with that or not.
Let's keep our fingers crossed.
Absolutely.
We've been fighting this battle for some time.
This can be huge for our community. So other than that, that's all I have.
All right, Commissioner Smiley, we'll go with you now.
Yeah, I got a couple good things I want to discuss. I'm kind of getting beat up by constituents about our female inmates. It's been tough being taken to Calhoun, Liberty. And it's no problem with them being kept in Liberty. The problem is when they come back to trial, they got to go back to Liberty to be released. well, once they've been released, they on their own. So now they got to get on the phone and call someone up to try to get them back to St. Joe. So is it anything that the board could do, that we could do to? Because I feel like this here, if you want to go a little deep in it, if I commit a crime here in St. Joe and the justice system chose to keep me in the St. Joe system, which Liberty now is considered the St. Joe system, why is I'm being put out on the streets 100 miles away, 50 miles away? They don't have no way. I mean, I'm getting beat up about this by the women, female inmates having to try to find a way back home. Could we talk with Dixon and Son or something? Or could the van who took him back up there to be released bring them back? I mean, it's not right to just take them to Liberty from Gulf County to Liberty and just drop them on the doorstep.
Commissioner Smiley, let me get sideways on this, but,
Now, I know lots of people might not think much of those people who get locked up and incarcerated, but they still human beings too.
yeah, we recognize that, I do, but, you know,
Mr. Chairman, can I suggest you and Michael Hammond work on that issue
Yeah.
and come back with a report in a couple of weeks?
what we have, we're in the 14th Judicial Circuit. I think Liberty's in the 2nd Judicial Circuit, and maybe when they come back here, and we will, Mr. Hammond, you and I will get together, and that when they come here, if the judge releases them, or if they've met all their obligations, I don't see any reason why we would have to transport them. That's at our expense too, carry them back to Liberty County just to be released. A judge should be able to release them here, but we're in two different judicial circuits there. That's the thing we got there. But unless you and I get together, we'll set up a date and see if we can't, Commissioner Smiley, see if we can find a solution. Okay? All right. Anything else? All right, Commissioner, recognize you.
I've had quite a few calls recently with all of the rain from residents at St. Joseph Shores, and have been working with county administrator on some of the issues. And I'd like to ask Mr. Butler if you would help me kind of address this for the public. I know you ran the LiDAR maps, and we looked at the topography of the land. I know it's been put out into the public that the county owns land back in the St. Joseph Shores area, and to my knowledge, we don't own any land. There are some platted right-of-ways, but we don't own any land in the St. Joseph Shores area. But Mr. Butler, can you weigh in on this for me?
Yes, if I could, Lynn, if you could put this on screen. Commissioner, you asked if we could put it on overhead yesterday.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Jack, will you do the middle button right behind you, please? Thank you.
Okay, Lynn, we may have to jump around back and forth.
Okay.
But we're talking about specifically 244 Watermark Way. And that's the residence of Miss Betty Price. She's located, that's Old Highway 98. That's Old Highway 98 in front of the house.
How that happened, Mr. Butler, I think he hit a button.
Just hold.
You'll hit that back button on the left-hand side there, Don.
Okay. This is 244.
Hitting that button, but
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna take your pointer away.
Too many buttons. I need one button.
You have to put that up there with your hand.
There it is. Okay, there's Miss Price's house. This is Old Highway 98. This is the new cul-de-sac at the end of the road where St. Joe went in and cut the road. This map you're looking at is a LiDAR map, and this is only a few years old. And Lynn, if we could jump out to a wider picture on this map, I want to show something. This is, and we'll go back in a little bit, we'll zoom back in a little bit. But this LiDAR map, these are contour lines. And these contour lines are pretty doggone close. It's a laser image from airplane. The entire county has been flown. We got these maps from the Water Management District. And it's a very good tool. And total for the county-wide, we're probably talking several $100,000 worth of maps. But these maps, these contour lines show you pretty accurately what the contour of the ground is. And if we were looking at another map between Old Highway 98 and the water, you see the edge of water is like -1 and 1 and 2, 3, 4 feet elevation above sea level. Here's Old Highway 98, and the issue is, and Lynn, if we can zoom in again, we've got certainly a water problem, and this again being 244. The roadway into the subdivision is Vista Bay. It's a county right-of-way dedicated to the public, a public dedication when this thing was subdivided back in the 30s. The only way by plat you get in is down this roadway. Then there's a roadway cuts back to the left, which is immediately behind this house. And this roadway going into that subdivision is immediately adjacent to the house. And this is your lowest place. If you look on the map, if we could zoom in a little bit now, right here, this circle under that circle right there is a 4-foot elevation. And 4-foot elevation, that's the lowest elevation of any of that land. There is nothing lower than 4 feet. And between, Lynn, let's go to, can I go hit the right button, go to the pink map? Didn't.
You may have to do it a couple of, there you go.
Okay, this pink map, it shows everything. The darker color is the lower elevation, the lighter color is the higher elevation. And if we can go back down and look at that same house. Here again is 244. And there's a lot of dark between 244 and this next sand dune line, which is the landward of Old Highway 98. There's another dark line through, and another sand dune line, another dark line. But point is, here is 4-foot elevation. That's 4 foot there. The next contour line around that is 5-foot elevation. That 5 foot is immediately under the back edge of the house. And in order for this water to go anywhere, it can't go across Old Highway 98 because it's high. And it really can't go north or back to the east because everything's higher than 4 and 5 feet. You get up here, these dune lines to get on up in 8, 7, and 8. You got to cross those, and you can't cross them. I mean, our problem is this is low, and it's higher. Anywhere you go is higher. Highway 98 is higher. Back to the east is higher. And if we could go back to the aerial photograph, and then I can show you couple things on that photograph. This one, you see some scarring of the land. And this is the boundary line, the east-west line of the St. Joe Shores subdivision. This is the north-south line of the St. Joe Shores subdivision. This is another east-west line. So St. Joe has not been on the inside of that subdivision line, but it did scar the land on the outside of the line. And there's two things, and you may have to look at the paper map to really make sense. There's two things on this map. One, the contour lines. The LiDAR image was shot after St. Joe built this roadway and built the access Discovery Lane into the subdivision. After that was done, St. Joe come in and cut this pond. And this pond actually goes over to a head wall and attempts to drain out back towards the new Highway 98. And so, in going out there, the topography hadn't been changed. It looked like they cleared the vegetation. The dune line that's on the old map, that you still see on the contour lines on this map, is the dune lines are still there. So our problem is trying to get water from a low place to a high place, and water won't run uphill. And it looked like possibly what St. Joe was trying to do here was to drain that over to this point, but really and truly between this point and Highway 98, there's still more high ground. So what the answer is, I'm not sure. But let me say again, when you go into right next to this house, that's the only subdivision access. There is 3 cabins back here belong to Mr. Carr, and the access into those cabins is across his private lot into those 3 cabins. So it's a private access to those 3 cabins. There's not a usable public access back in to all these lots in that subdivision. And it'd be very hard to do. It'd be very hard for anybody to go in and build. The right-of-ways are low. There'd be a lot of filling. There'd be a lot of permitting. And typically, the board policy, the county commission policy is you don't build roads. And we have a lot of roads in the county that that are platted and not built. St. Joe Beach is a good example. Almost every road off Highway 98 goes towards Panther Swamp, actually goes across George Avenue and goes down into the swamp. And those road ends have not been built. And in some cases, they can't be built. You can't permit them. But in any event, the county commission policy is not to build roads. If the developer wants to build roads to the county specs, they can. But problem is, one, most of this water is sitting on the county right-of-way. And this particular house is located in the very back corner. It looks like, according to the aerial photographs and the lot lines, looks like the house is jammed up on 2 lot lines, and at the lowest point of that lot, and also the lowest point of this entire subdivision. So what the answer is, we don't know.
So, Mr. Butler, thank you for working on that project and getting that information and going through it with me. It's very frustrating to have the flooding that we're having. And we all, I'm sure all of us up here know that. I know I get calls from White City, Overstreet, the beaches, Beacon Hill, you name it. I've got people flooded all over my district, and I would guess that all the commissioners here are experiencing flooding, at least in some place in their district. We have had an inordinate amount of rain. I have discussed with staff. I do not see where there is anything that the county is doing on this particular property. And Mr. Novak, do you want to weigh in on this issue at all? I mean, this is a continuing issue, and we are spending a lot of staff time on it. I think we need to address it in some way if it is our issue. If it is not our issue, then I think that we need to move on, but we can't just have it an issue that's up in the air on this particular property.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, my recommendation would be, and like I said, we've reached out to some of the homeowners who have contacted the county with regards to those issues. Some cite the issue being 3 or 4 years old, some cite it being longer. If someone brought something to the county's attention specifically that these issues or flooding were being caused by a county issue, I'd certainly say that staff and myself could address it. I'll be happy to respond to any of those property owners, and I've reached out to them, and I'll be happy to discuss it with them. If they have counsel, I'll discuss it with them as well. As it stands right now, I know the administration, the commissioners have reviewed the issue, and everything, both historically and the facts that are presented to you all, demonstrate that, one, it's either Mother Nature, or two, it's not something caused by the county. It doesn't address, obviously, the constituents that are out there and their request to you all as commission for some relief, and that is obviously accomplished through limited maintenance agreements that you have a policy on if it's deemed to be a county issue that serves the public whole. And you've all done that over the last 3 years since we adopted that policy. So with regards to the legal approach to it, if there's something specific that's brought to you as the commissioner's attention that can be remedied, we'll be happy to address it. As it stands right now in all the review of it. There's nothing being caused or any kind of exposure to the county from what Mr. Butler just reviewed with you all and what we all have as part of both the LIDAR and the facts that support the flooding issues.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Smiley. All right, just a moment. We will be recognized, just a moment. Just a minute. I see Ms. Price is here, Betty, and I'm not other than my hat, don't think that, but she called me a year ago one Saturday. I said, I won't talk with you on the phone. I'll come down and look you in the eye. So I drove down when we were Hitchcock. Found out I think 2 other commissioners had already been, we weren't there together, with this issue, and it is an issue, and it's, it's just water. When we have this excessive rain, it's going to find the low spots, and Miss Betty, I'm sorry, but it's low behind your residence there. And you're here asking us, how can we help you now? I was back, I was back out there yesterday. I didn't stop, but I went down to Mr. Carr's. He has the 3 units. The attorney and I went. We got out. We walked that, and saw where someone had tried to put a drain hose to put over, and it's a mess in there. Honestly, it is. We came out and leaving your home and coming back, going back out. There's 3 units there. They're built up, and another unit beside them. They're built up. And then we come on down, and then we'll go this lady right over here want to talk. She lives in that same area there, and she has a home. I saw her home yesterday, and she's not quite as bad as you are. I mean, she's got some issues, but not quite as bad because I think the house is up a little more. Maybe she doesn't have any buildings or sheds or anything in the back. So, Mr. Attorney, if you don't have anything else, I'm going to recognize her in just you want input, Mr.
Yes.
McLemore?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would.
Mr. McLemore?
This is a bad situation, but here's what I think. We do this throughout the county. We'll do it down there on the Cape San Blas. If we can put a pump out there temporarily when we have these major floods to stop that lady or that lady's house from flooding, I think we should do it. That's what we're here for. We're here to help people to the best of our knowledge and to do the best we can with. Unfortunately, she does live in a hole. I've been out there before. I've addressed this issue. But on a temporary basis, when we can run that pump, or at least provide it out there on county property, I feel we need to do it. There's no difference than Mr. Smiley here when we get a senior over there that gets a burnt house, needs assistance. That's what we're here for, is to help people. When it gets to a point where we can't help anybody, we don't need to be up here.
Well, I agree, and I think that's what we have been doing to a certain extent, is providing the pump. I know Jake has been religious. I have the same issue.
Let me
Oh, I'm
interject here, for the public's interest. There, behind these homes is county property. The county, I want that
County
clearly
right-of-way.
understand. Do what?
It's a county right-of-way.
Exactly,
not
so
county
we,
property.
no, it's not that we're necessarily going on people's private property. Sometimes we do have a limited maintenance agreement, but there is county property directly behind these houses, so continue on.
One of the models that's worked, because Commissioner Three is right, we all have these stormwater issues, especially the last year or two, because we've had some rain. One of the things that's been successful in Cape San Blas area and other areas is we have done a temporary pump before, but then when the residents saw that that's just a temporary solution, they as an association has went in and it's not a whole lot of money, but they put a small sump pump in. And that little sump keeps it pumped out once it rains for the most part. Now, I don't know how many people's in the association or if you're able to do that. The county has helped with the permitting process and those type things because it does take a permit. But I think there's ways to help. I agree that, we've got county property back there. We can certainly go and pump that off as Jake has been doing it. And I think that you've mentioned that Jake has been very helpful in doing that. But we've got these issues all over, and if there's an association involved with it, there's a fix to it. There's a fix.
I don't believe there's an actual association. I could be wrong. It is St. Joseph Shores, but I don't know if they've actually formed an association there. However, I agree with Commissioner McLemore that if there is an emergency and somebody's home is flooding and we can provide a pump to prevent that, I think that we should. But I think it should be in an emergency situation. And as you said, Commissioner Yeager, once that emergency has passed, the homeowner or the association, if it's association property, needs to address the issue. And if we are going to put pumps for every property owner that has low property, we're going to have a lot of pumps. And it's unfortunate, but we have, I've got a gentleman up in Overstreet, and Mr. Butler knows the gentleman. He's also in a very low place, and he has a tremendous amount of water on his property. And he is right next to St. Joe land. There is a right-of-way next to his property. So we could end up having pumps everywhere. So what we need to determine is what is the county's responsibility. We do want to help people, but this is all taxpayer dollars. So as taxpayers, you're paying for what we are supposed to do, what we are required to do as a county. So we have to sit up here and we have to determine what are our responsibilities. And we can't pick and choose. We have to treat everybody equally across the board. Again, there are emergency situations that we can address. I think that the pump that's been out there has been out there off and on for a couple of years. And the problem is not going to go away just by using the pump. So the problem is going to have to be addressed. And if it is a county issue, I think we have to address it. If it is not a county issue, then we have to stop addressing it partially. We have to determine whether it's our issue or not. And I have involved Mr. Novak and Mr. Butler so that we can determine if this is actually a county issue. I have not seen anything that shows that it is a county issue. If it is, then we need to address it. But we've got to do it one way or the other. We can't just ride down the middle of it.
All right, while we're on that, I'm going to change it just a touch. Being that we're on this issue, I think now would be the time while it's fresh. And we have Mrs. Price lives there, and Miss Alsbrook. Miss Alsbrook, would you like to address the board on this? If you would, please come forward.
I'm Gail Alsbrook,
There you go.
162 Watermark Way. I just wanted to add to the discussion that, and I know the prices are the most impacted by this, and it's pretty dramatic, but that water does run all along the back of all the properties on the land side there in St. Joseph Shores. And from a practical standpoint, wherever we end up, whose responsibility and how we're going to fix it, we have so many more mosquitoes now with that standing water. And since you were out yesterday, you see there's still water standing behind my house, and the ones down the road and then up where Mrs. Birch's house and all the way to the Gays. So I know last year when we had so many mosquitoes, I asked, can you come and treat the water? And they did, and that really took care of it. So as we're moving through the process, if you could just help us with the mosquitoes, ongoing. And then the only other thing was, Mr. Butler, when I appreciated your presentation, is there, one thing I would like to see included in that is just the Miraval pad. I know that the St. Joe Company raised that property, and that's one of our concerns, is that, did that create more runoff to come into us? And I don't have the answer to that, but I think that's another thing that just needs to be put into this equation as we move through it. And the last thing is, there is a St. Joseph Shores LLC, and we haven't been real active, but, we just kind of started getting people together. And, as things come up, we get to know each other. There's so many off-site owners that we just, several years ago, starting in 2006, we just started reaching out to each other. So, if we need to get the whole group together, we have the mechanism to do that. So, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And may I
Okay.
add,
Go for
and
it.
Ms. Alsobrook, since you do have the LLC, if all of the landowners back there have joined that LLC, you may be able to come together as a community and develop some type of drainage, if it's physically possible. Legally, if you're all a part of this LLC and are willing to give those types of to each other to give the potential drainage, you may, if it's physically possible, you may be able to come up with a drainage there in your community, like an association would prior to development.
And
Do it on the
we do need
backside.
to get together to discuss that. And, I'll sort of let the Prices take the lead. I know they've been spending a lot of time on this, and I've sort of been focused on other things for a while. But I think that's a good suggestion. And really, we appreciate your time and your consideration of our situation.
And I think that the county will help in any way that we can that is permissible within the bounds of the county's authority.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alsobrook. Stan, would you and Miss Betty like to, while we're on this issue, would you like to come before the board, either? Thank you. State your name, if you would, please. For the
Stan Price, I'm the son of Betty Price.
Give us an address.
I live at 108 Monica Drive. 244 Watermark Way is my mother's address.
All right, proceed on.
That house was built by Floyd Bruton in 1974. It was not built in a pond. It was not built in a puddle of water. My mother acquired the property in 1982. For 25 years, there's not been a problem. The county right-of-way was wooded all the way up to her fence. Back years ago, we got the blessings from the county to clear that underbrush back for fear of snakes and whatnot being that close to the yard, not being able to see them. Alan Brock was hired by my mother to clear that, the underbrush, the hard trees, that was the only thing that was clear was the underbrush. Cleared the underbrush. For years and years and years, that right-of-way back there was farmed. Grew gardens back there. Had a beautiful St. Augustine lawn out there. Got rose bushes out there. Got it was just, it looks like part of the yard. It was a beautiful piece of property. Now, we've had torrential rains those first 25 years. This rain hadn't started in the last 5 or 6 years. We've had torrential rains. We had Hurricane Opal, October the 4th, 1995, that brought a massive amount of rain. I lost a business with all the rain that flooded me out in Highland View. That was not a problem. The drainage was working well. The water fell. The water drained. The water, Mr. Butler just showed, has nowhere to go now because you're high east, you're high west, you're high north, you're high south. It is a hole now that Windmark has been put in. Now, having said that, with what Windmark, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a professional at nothing, but I got common sense. With what St. Joe done, what the county allowed St. Joe to do with their property, which they should be able to do what they want to with their property, it rose the water table. We don't have a, you can cut a ditch the size of Highway 71 and it's not gonna get rid of the water. When we pump the water out, I've got a berm built around the property. And I've got a 55-gallon drum buried in her backyard with 2 pumps in it. That berm keeps the water from the county property from infiltrating her, and then the water that falls in her land, I pump over the berm onto the county property. The reason I do that is to keep her carport and utility room dry. Now, that rain we had, my berm wasn't high enough. The water breached the berm. We had 9.5 inches of water in the utility room. Her flood insurance has been dropped in the last few years, not from the flood insurance she had from the water across the way, not from the Gulf. We have lost flood insurance because we've had claims from this water. All the washers and dryers and 2 freezers in that utility room is on cinder blocks and have been for years. I did call, I've talked to Miss Bryan, I talked to Mr. McDaniel, I talked to Jake. Jake brought me a couple of loads of dirt. I borrowed a tractor, I built the berm higher, I pumped it out, I went and bought chlorine, I cleaned all the slime and the mud and the mess out of there to where she could just walk down there and do her laundry. My whole goal in this is to correct this issue. This issue has not been going on. That Maddox house was built in 1945. That Maddox house accessed the drive, accessed county property, and drove under the house. Well, there's 12 inches of water under the house right now where Miss Maddox, she's passed and gone now. She moved to Panama City to get away from the problem. She bought a house, she sold 2 lots across the street, and then she moved to Panama City to get away from the problem. And she's since passed. Now, her washer and dryer and her car stayed under that house, which is not a possibility anymore. It's just not possible. It's been possible since 1945, but it's not possible now. So whatever has happened, whether it be the county, the city, St. Joe, whatever has happened has not been a problem until when Mark Beach was developed, whether it was bad engineering, whether it was bad design, but my issue is this. My issue is I'm assuming that that St. Joe went through the proper channels in doing what they did with their property. That was going through the county, obtaining the permits, getting the blessings, getting all that kind of stuff. And we went from a county right-of-way that I mowed myself. I weed-eated around the rose bushes, and I picked stuff out of the garden. And I mean, we went from that to a muddy mess. Right now, you can pump it out, and the reason I say water table, you can pump it out, turn the pump off, not get a drop of rain, and you got 12 inches of water back there in the morning. Now, I've got a berm built all the way around it. So where's the water coming from? You can sit there and look and watch the water boil out from under the concrete slab where the driveway and the utility, you can watch the water boil out from under the slab. Now, that's a water table issue. The water table has changed. Now, I don't know the test that you run. I don't know. Water table is higher. The high water table is, we had 9.5 inches in the laundry room. We had 16 inches at the back wall of the house. And Jake brought me some dirt. I built my berm back up. I turned my pumps on, pumped that out, and then got the chlorine and cleaned it up. But it has not been an issue. The Maddoxes didn't build a house over there. Floyd Bruton didn't build that house in a hole in 1974. So whatever St. Joe done, changing the drainage, maybe building up the land, kind of like we living on a sponge here, and St. Joe stepped on their end of the sponge and pushed the water up on our end of the sponge. I don't know. I'm not an engineer, but I know the problem did not exist at all. I've been associated with the property since 1982.
Stan, let us, we're aware of it, and I know wheels turn slow. Hopefully, anywhere up as much rain as we've had, up the north, it's everywhere.
I know,
It's
I understand that.
everywhere.
Listen,
And I agree with you 100%. That out there with the Salton Brook, that is, but the whole and how, question is, we've got a problem now. What we got to do is find a solution.
find a
That's what we're gonna
solution to
work
the
with
problem
out here.
that was created 5 to 6 years ago, not a problem that's been there since the land was there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not been it's not been a water holding hole for the first 25 years. I mean, I've got people that can testify,
Let
all
me
the
say
family
this.
members and
Let
all
me say
that.
this in the sake of time here. We can spend all day on this. That's what we gotta look at.
Okay.
It's the St. Joe Company. Now, I'm ignorant to this fact. Is that in the city of St. Joe, was that annexed? Are you annexed into?
I don't think-
St.
I don't
Joe?
think-
St.
I
Joseph
don't
Shores
know.
was not
I don't think-
It's
I don't
not,
think
okay.
St. Joseph Shores
So it's a
was.
county. I'm not trying to drag a municipality, but if it is, then, they have a responsibility. Okay,
One
so
more
we got
point.
that established. Just a minute now. But we will go back, and, as far as, let's say, and going out there and we just fill us all in. We probably can't do that because you got these DEP people involved. They're involved in everything. You can't even walk on your own property anymore, hardly.
Right.
DEP. We will address this. And let us look, and maybe we can get with the St. Joe with their engineering. I know St. Joe Company retained that, in this big land sale, they retained that property. Correct there? That's included in this, they retain that property.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, I'd like to
So
make
we're
one more
dealing
point.
with St. Joe. All right, one more. and
One
the
more
same-
point.
Fine.
My mother, probably get in trouble for saying this, she'll be 75 years old next month. My goal is to get her off and into a ground floor house. I need this problem fixed. She's not getting any younger. She's not gonna be able to continue to maintain, to navigate them stairs in that house. I need to get this property fixed, to get a bilge pump out of that backyard to where it can be a sellable piece of property, so I can relocate her to a ground floor house due to her not being a spring chicken anymore.
Thanks, Stan.
Mr. Chairman? Mr.
Don't get in
Chairman?
trouble for that one.
Get set down first. Okay, while we're still on this, I'm going to go back and recognize Commissioner Bryan.
I just want to make a comment about the water table, and it is considerably higher all up the beaches. All through St. Joe Beach, we're having a problem with and throughout the county. But we can't work on, we've got the issues with America's Ditch, the 5 areas that have been determined to be worked on, and they are trying to work on them, but the water table is so high that it is difficult for them to even work on those issues. And that's at the beach, up from St. Joseph Shores. So the water table is high. It's not just in St. Joseph Shores near Windmark Beach. It's all along the beach. It's all through the county, and it really is from the inordinate amount of rainfall. So we're all dealing with that. I also have water in my backyard. I've been here about 10 years. I've never had water in my backyard. In these last couple of years, I have. But thank you, Mr. Chairman.
On that issue, now,
Yeah.
do you have other things that you'd like?
That was all I had.
That's all. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner McLemore? Thank you. Board members, I have one thing, and I like to bring it before the board. I don't spend money unless it comes before the board. Up at Dead Lakes Park, I wish our TDC director, who is normally here, but she's out trying to promote this county today and some of the northern states. But this past weekend, she was up, and at Dead Lakes Park, she said we had 1 parking facility left. Well, really, we have 4, but we had 5 because there's 4 over next to our maintenance building. But what I want to ask this board for, here last year, we got the Public Works to go, and we bought some dolomite rock and placed on the road going down to the boat landing. And it's packed in good. I need to come back, and we need maybe 5, 7 loads to recap that with a smaller size rock. Those were some boulders we put in there. I need permission. We'll pay for it out of where'd Miss Norris go? Here we go, Mrs. Herring. We have money. That park collects money, and that park also pays, contributes to the bed tax. Only thing in the north end of the county, I'm sorry to report, but it does. might not have to, but we're going to do it to try to help out. But I would like to get the gravel to do that road, and also, as you go into the park, it makes a big circle. We would like to pave from the pavement, re-gravel from the pavement into the circle. I like, anytime we're gonna spend money, I like to bring it before the board.
Mr. Chairman, you also have parks and recreation money also.
Yeah,
So
I'm
the-
aware
So
of
the
that.
money's there, so
But I know it's there, and it won't come out of the tax, it's collected money.
Yeah.
I just like to bring.
Regardless where it
issue
comes
before the
from,
board.
yeah, you have it, so I'd say, I'd make a motion to move to
all right.
that.
I'll second that.
All right, we got a motion by Commissioner McLemore, second by Commissioner Traylor. Does anyone in the public, knowledge of that? Anything? Okay. Motion. Got the motion, got the second. Any opposition? All right, Mr. Danford, take care of that, would you please? All right, thank you. That's all I have. Okay, Ms. Lanier?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have Kathy Jones, Uncivil Properties, Lot 3, Sunset Bay subdivision.
Wait a minute, Cinnamon Hills, we've already addressed
No,
that.
Kathy Jones, it's after Cinnamon Hill, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you. Last?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Jones, come up, please.
I'm Kathy Jones. I'm a realtor for Beach Realty, and I'm here in reference to the Sunset Bay subdivision, which is in Highland View off of Dixie View Lane. I'm asking the property owners for permission to amend the covenants and restrictions to delete the single-family residential use and allow for RVs to make the property more marketable. And you guys are one of the owners. So that's why I'm here. And he's here for moral support.
Do we have any comment from staff on this issue? I don't have any issues, but I'm wondering.
Let me look here just. Yeah, I'm aware of it, and we do, what do we have, fire station?
Correct.
Okay, and you're wanting us to,
Amend the covenants and restrictions. And I did send letters to everybody. To the 12.
Kathy, if I can, I'm just going to direct the commissioners to page 74 in your agenda. Kathy's provided you all a copy of the page, which is recorded in the county records, but it's page 74 in your agenda. Specifically, I think, Kathy, you're asking about section 7?
And also the section 3,
In
paragraph
section 3, okay.
Yes.
So there's a single-family residential designation as well as an outbuilding and temporary structure requirements in the CCRs currently on those properties. And I would bring to the commission's attention that you have your fire stations in there.
Oh, it's the fire station property that affects this? That's what my
It-
question was going to be, is
It doesn't,
what property
the
is
county
ours?
owns, the property they own, their fire station sits on.
Okay.
So, and I believe,
in that area.
Kathy, I don't believe anybody else has developed the other properties in there?
That's correct.
So they're all vacant, other than this one?
Correct.
As it currently stands, there's a single-family residential restriction, and then you have your outbuilding and temporary structure restrictions on it as well. You're a member of the association.
And may I ask a question, Mr. Chairman? So my understanding is that clearly all of the normal regulations and ordinances in Gulf County would apply, but you have, when this property was developed, there were more strict restrictions placed on the property, and you're looking to carve those back a little bit, back towards the regulations that are on all the properties in Gulf County, just for the public to understand.
you want to relax them, is that what
I
you
want
want
to
to do?
relax them.
There you go.
Yes. Because
I will make the motion to accept. I believe everyone else in the subdivision, property owner-wise, would have to agree as well. Is that correct, Mrs. Jones?
75%.
75%.
You're welcome.
Okay. Got a motion? Second. Got a second by Commissioner McLemore here. Any property owners in that area? Anyone, any discussion? In the audience?
Mr. Chairman, I got a
Yeah.
relationship with some of those owners. Can I vote on that, or should I
Your
abstain?
relationship with the owners?
with some of the owners in that subdivision. I mean, I've got some personal relationships with them and business relationships with them. Should I
If it's a
abstain?
direct familial relationship, I'd tell you to abstain. If it's just
Just
extent.
for, in the caution, I'm
That's
going to
good.
abstain.
If you have a financial.
Yeah, you'll abstain. Okay,
I would just ask one question, Mr. Chairman. Kathy, when you receive the commission's vote, it's obviously only one of the entire association. Is there a meeting at which then the directors then approve it and will amend it in Becky's office and remove those restrictions?
As far as I understand, based on the attorney I spoke with, he said all I had to do was get the percentage and then bring in
Sure.
the signs.
The amendment,
Right,
okay.
the
So
signed
as part of that motion, if you'd authorize the chairman to sign on that amendment on behalf of the association for your membership on that parcel, if you'd include that in your motion to provide that to the Joneses.
I'll amend
all
my
right.
motion.
That includes your second still stands, all right. Anything from the public? Any further discussion with board members? All right, if there's no opposition, pass 4, and 1 correct there, all right, and sign the documents, please. Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Lanier, I'll go, if I can, is it number 8 we'll go to
That's correct.
on the amended agenda?
I apologize, I
Okay.
didn't print out my.
I know,
Sorry.
on the amended agenda, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, you have 2 additional vendors today. I wanted to at least just set up how we got where we are today, and then introduce both Wetland Associates and Ecological Resource Consultants who have come to make additional presentations. At your last meeting 2 weeks ago, you heard from 3 vendors on your habitat conservation plan. This process now, as I mentioned 2 weeks ago, is going on 5 months since signing the contract with Fish and Wildlife to receive this grant. The county has had an organizational meeting, and since that time, you all appointed a technical advisory committee, which consisted of a U.S. Fish and Wildlife representative, 3 Florida Fish and Wildlife representatives, as well as 5 staff members. That advisory committee then took in the RFQ that ran the first week of December. It was a month to turn in the RFQ responses. It was around the holidays, and you all authorized the extension of that RFQ process to January 17th. There were 5 consultants that submitted RFQ responses, and your technical advisory committee after that date met on February 6th, the 18th, the 20th, and then reported to you all on the 25th with regards to their evaluations. At your 25th of February meeting, it was a recommendation of this board that you give the consultants the opportunity to come present, and you told the 3 top consultants, according to the Technical Advisory Committee, to come and make a 10-minute presentation, or extended the invitation, which you were permitted to do under your RFQ. If you recall, on March 11th, those 3 vendors received invitations. They all showed up. They all provided you a 10-minute presentation. They all provided you handouts, and you were all asked to evaluate those presentations and provide them to the administrator. The commissioners in attendance did that. We had 1 abstention, and following that, we went back to the Technical Advisory Committee as recently as last week. Your Technical Advisory Committee had 8 of the 9 members at your most recent TAC meeting, and they evaluated your comments as well as some of the comments submitted by the vendors, and also reviewed the evaluations and criteria provided by the administrative staff. It was a recommendation, unanimous recommendation of your Technical Advisory Committee that first they extend an invitation to your 2 other vendors. They wanted to give all 5 of your vendors an equal opportunity to come make presentations to this commission. So I'm going to stop myself there, and then we'll go into the additional recommendations of the TAC after you hear your presentation today. Mr. Chairman, I believe you have both Wetland Associates and Ecological Resource Consultants, however you'd like to call them up. I believe they have flash drives and presentations.
You?
Mr. Attorney,
I have a question
may-
before
All right,
we move
just a
on.
moment. Question.
I just wanted to say I have 1 ERC already programmed.
Okay, great.
Would,
All right, we'll come right back. Let's go to Commissioner here first. Okay, you have the floor.
Before we go into those
Sure,
presentations.
sure.
I'm not certain why the technical committee decided that we should change. We had this procedure set out. They spent the 5 months. They reviewed the information. They rated the teams, which you've just gone through all this, I'm just repeating what you said, and then we watched the presentations of the top 3, which is a very common way that boards handle reviewing these RFQs. We voted on those presentations and sent our votes in. What was it that the technical committee decided was done inappropriately that we would alter the way that we were handling this?
I've attended each of these TAC meetings, so I'm going to give you my perspective, or at least my observations from those, and sitting there watching these 9 members. At the meeting last week, they took in not only correspondence from the vendors with regards to the evaluation process, also Ms. Lanier took the scoring sheets, and it actually made the vendors' scoring come closer, and that was presented to all 8 TAC members. After they have reviewed their numbers, they all voted that the numbers were so close that they couldn't say one stood out amongst the others. And based on the correspondence they received from various vendors, which were critical, saying that the county staff possibly didn't have the ability to make the evaluations, and it should be simply the Fish and Wildlife making those recommendations, and that in conjunction with the numbers becoming closer, they wanted to give the other 2 vendors the opportunity to come and present today with additional recommendations.
And who is it that said that the county staff may not?
One of the vendors wrote that in.
Okay, so one of the applicants.
Yes,
that
that's correct.
Well, clearly, the different people on the committee, the way it looks to me, are there for different purposes, and not every single person on that committee is there from an environmental standpoint. Some are on there from a financial standpoint. Some are on there from the administrative way that we run the county and looking at what these vendors can do and how it would dovetail into the way that the county functions. So I don't see where there was an issue with the committee that was formed. I think that the process worked very well. And my concerns for these presentations today, and this is no offense to the 2 consultants or teams that were not in the top 3 and were not allowed to give their presentations last time, but they have the advantage to having been able to go and watch the presentations of the other 3 vendors that gave their, or consultants that gave their presentations last time. They're on video, and I think it gives an unfair advantage. If we set out a methodology to review these RFQs, I think that we should stick to them unless there was something very unusual that failed in the process. And I think this is a mistake to go back now and allow the other 2 to come in after watching the top 3 presentations. And I would like to ask this board to really take a look at that. And if I was on one of the top 3 that gave my presentation last time, I think I would have an issue with us going back in. I would like to make the motion now that we instruct Mr. Butler to take that, I don't know who it was, but whoever had the top score, even if it's by 1 point, and that we award this contract as we had laid out to start with. The rules of the game were laid out, and I think we should stick to them. So I'd like to make that motion that we go with whoever won the votes under the original methodology.
Okay.
Well, can I at least hear what your thoughts are? Why, anybody else
Sure.
on the board?
Back a second. I went back and reviewed, and very clear with these 9 people that some of them did not follow the instructions. It would say give a score of 0 to 5, and one gave a 10. They got counted in there. So we went back and really got to looking close, and I mean, it's all official. We have the records there. That throwed it all. These 9 people they couldn't make the decision. They gave a score, and like I say, the 3 came in. We had 3 that came in high out of 5. And, you know, it's the board's decision here who we're going to select has a lot of input on this county. It will affect the county primarily in the Cape and out on the beach area. We select what they target and what they don't target. And we're dealing with, this is environmental conservation law. So that's the only thing I can say. The scoring was all out. They threw it all out and came back. Am I anywhere correct there? We're just going back and reevaluating. When you call this meeting back with the 9 members and 8 of them came back, what was their recommendation?
It was unanimous to recommend that the other 2 consultants be afforded the same opportunity the first 3 were, that the numbers were so close that they had additional recommendations that we'll get into after the other presenters offer their presentation. And I would say respectfully to the commission, and I understand the motion being made, that there is a tremendous investment of county staff time for this in-kind on this grant, hundreds of hours. It has been a very thorough process. We have Fish and Wildlife who has actually written to the TAC committee commending the county and saying that the unified response has been tremendous and that Gulf County staff truly seems to really care about the process. And I have countless emails from the Fish and Wildlife representatives. Each of the votes were unanimous amongst the entire committee. So I'd say before, and I understand the motion, to not, every vote of this TAC committee that you've had, both Fish and Wildlife on the federal level, the state level, and your county staff, has been unanimous. One of those recommendations was to make all vendors have the same opportunity, and there's additional. The process that they all scored on was a thorough process that they met, I think, on 4 different occasions, Ms. Lanier,
Yes.
where they had to refine it. And I know that looking at Ms. Herring, Ms. Manuel, Ms. Kopinski, Ms. Lanier, Mr. Butler, all of them invested countless hours in their own independent evaluations of all these vendors, and they all participated in these recommendations to come back to you as commissioners to recommend that all of the vendors be afforded the same 10 minutes, to provide everyone equal footing, and then additional recommendations that I'll get into after that, and then to have a final analysis being done. You have all received the RFQ. You have the evaluation summary sheets of the scoring for the various vendors, and that's how we're here today. And I would just add, Commissioner Bryan, that the vendors have come today on the recommendation of the TAC from a good distance to make that 10-minute presentation. So before we throw out the entire 5-month process, I would just encourage you all, and dare I say it, we do not want a bid protest, and we want this to be an absolutely equal process for all the vendors. Before we get into moving in a different direction, I would encourage you all to consider strongly the TAC's recommendations, which is an eclectic group, very talented group, who have invested a tremendous amount of time to not start the process over and to give the other vendors those opportunities. It's a 10-minute presentation.
So what I'm hearing from Mr. Chairman is that the process actually did have flaws, and it wasn't followed as it should have been. Isn't that what you're telling me, Mr. Chairman?
Well, that's all.
That is what you understand. So it wasn't followed properly. There were some
No,
issues.
The process was followed by all the TAC members. In terms,
some scoring, it wasn't.
you have an evaluation sheet on an RFQ, which was over 30 pages, which was extremely thorough and very detailed. As you mentioned, it's of tremendous importance to the county for decades to come on the outcome of the consultant and the impacts to this county. Once the independent evaluation sheets were provided to each of these 9 members, they took it upon themselves to score it. There were meetings afterward to try to clarify the voting, I think, and the evaluation sheets that were received from each of the members. And Ms. Lanier, if I'm not characterizing that right, you can correct me.
Yes, Mr. Attorney, there were several discrepancies, and in our last meeting before the recommendation was made, the committee reviewed all of those discrepancies, and that is when I went in and changed all of the evaluation sheets. There was one member which I think misunderstood 1 or 2 of the criteria, and they scored them a little differently than the other members. They said that they gave it a weighted score. However, it was their determination to do that. It was different than everyone else. Other than that, all of the discrepancies were cleared, and that those 2 criteria would not have made a difference, I don't believe, in the final score. And when we cleared all of the discrepancies, it did make those evaluations come a little bit closer, which is the reason that the committee decided to make the recommendation, if I'm correct, Mr. Attorney, in that.
That is correct. There was weighted scores used when it was the evaluation of the committee, that was not the analysis to be used. And I'd also offer the comment that the 2 vendors here today were the ones that ranked the two lowest on the original evaluation. You took presentations from the three highest vendors. The two vendors here today have accepted that invitation, knowing that they were the two lowest in the scoring, and have come today to take advantage of that opportunity to present to you all. The TAC acknowledged that they made those weighted scores in their evaluation, and that's why they're making these accommodations now to make these recommendations, that this commission ultimately makes these decisions on the contractor after you hear from all five vendors.
And I understand that, but I think that we may have an issue here, and I don't think this is the proper way to do business. Now, I understand saying that the vendors should all have the same opportunity, but I would argue that they actually don't have the same opportunity because they're coming in. And this, again, this is no reflection on the two vendors that are here today. I do not know those vendors, so it's no reflection on them. I'm talking strictly about the process, but they do have an advantage that the first three would not have had.
Hold the board here. Do you have any objection? We have a motion here. I'm sitting on it. I hadn't called for a second.
I have stayed out of this process.
All right, I know you have.
Business relationship.
I think we should let these people, their presentation.
If they don't come down, and I can't see no harm in them doing it.
I'm gonna make my vote based on what I hear from the people, from these, different, groups. I don't care if it's 25 out there, that's what I'm gonna base.
That's the purpose of having a committee.
You, Commissioner McLemore? Yeah, I'm going with it. All right, I know it, I know that, I was just polling the board here. All right, you have a motion on the floor not to let the,
The motion is to go with the original
The three.
process
all right,
and look strictly at the three that were the top three based on the scores we gave last time.
all right. Now, back to you, Commissioner, before I call for a second. Mr. Attorney, you're going to hear a cry of foul. I want to come back to this. I'm going to let's address it now. We're going to get somebody's going to say foul on this. Oh, hey.
It is, I believe it's your committee's intention to give them all an equal opportunity so
That's
that someone
the
does not cry
intention of this
concern.
committee.
It is also a very involved process where there's been a uniform support that they all have
We
this
went over that,
opportunity.
and I think we're fully aware of all that. All right, Commissioner, your motion's on the floor. I'm calling for a second to Commissioner Bryan's motion. Do I hear a second? Do I hear a second? Motion dies for lack of a second. Mr. Attorney?
The next step, sir, would be to introduce each of the vendors for their presentations.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, first presentation is Ecological Resource Consultants.
All right, ecological. Art.
Brett.
You can pass it, or, may I push the?
Dawn.
Martin, how you doing, man?
Good, how are you? Great to see you.
Gentlemen, allow you. And, that'd be better.
You got that, right? So forward is to the right. Okay. Yes. Excuse me.
All right. You ready?
Absolutely. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we really appreciate the unexpected opportunity to speak in front of you this morning about our capabilities to complete the Habitat Conservation Plan for the Gulf County. We're here represented by myself, Martin Goronsky, Brian Phillips, and our President, Joe Schuster, was going to be here, but due to severe case of bronchitis, he had to pass, and we apologize for that. We would like to highlight just a few items since we have very limited time. We are a local company based in Panama City, East Bay County, which is only 5 miles away from Gulf County. So we are very, very local, and we also have an office in Tallahassee. We have a local experience, and a lot of it, which we'll mention later, but we'll also have national and international expertise. We have experience in Gulf County and immediate area with hundreds of projects, hundreds of restoration projects, mitigation banks, and other very pertinent work items which will help us to complete the HCP in an appropriate manner. We have many clients in the county. They include private and public clients. St. Joe Company, we have done work for Port, the Water Management District, the county itself, a lot of private developers, Florida DOT, Florida DEP, and other community work, which includes the hospital. We have done all federal and non-federal components of the work that comprises all aspects of the HCP, and we're prepared to do a fantastic job completing the work for you. We are mitigation specialists. We employ a number of folks, which I'll mention later, which are specialists in the field throughout the state, southeast, and the country. We have managed hundreds of mitigation and restoration projects, including very large mitigation banks, which comprise tens of thousands of acres of land, which has been successfully restored and assessed. This is a short map of Gulf County and our experience in a county. I'd like to highlight the fact that we have experience in the entire county. Joe Schuster has authored the Gulf County Soil Survey, which entailed looking at each and every parcel of the Gulf County. We also have areas shown in the red, which show direct experience with work on the ground, permitting work, and other evaluation work with the parcels in the county, which shows quite a bit of experience again. We are highly qualified. We are a very experienced locally consulting firm. All ERC team members are located in immediate proximity and or live in Gulf County, which will give us immediate access to any work, any questions, any issues that may be raised during the process. We're not traveling from a distance. We are from here. ERC principals and staff have vested interest in growth in Gulf County. We are in the business here. We have business here for over 17 years. We are expected to be in business here permanently. We have done pro bono work for Gulf County. We have permitted Sacred Heart Hospital, value of that exceeded $100,000. That included countless hours of negotiations with regulatory agencies, state and federal, and commenting agencies, which includes Fish and Wildlife, to bring the project to completion. ERC team includes Joe Schuster, who is our president, who unfortunately couldn't be here because he could not speak, who was the party leader and, as I mentioned, principal author of Gulf County Soil Survey, which includes not only soils work, but includes evaluation of habitats, relationships of habitats, and will provide a lot of baseline information for production of the HCP. In addition to that, Dr. John Toby led the Florida Delineation Restoration Section for the state of Florida, has conducted numerous trainings and evaluations for the county, with the county, for the state with the county, and therefore is extremely familiar with all habitats of the county very specifically. He is an authority of Florida coastal ecosystems, and he's recognized as such by all agencies, including Florida Fish and Wildlife. He has managed multiple mitigation banks, which include very much the similar or the same type of habitats as we will evaluate here in Gulf County to complete the HCP. Our staff has highly experienced biologists and ecologists who have years of experience working directly in the Gulf County, completing projects, completing restorations, and completing evaluations here. And now Brian Phillips will talk a little bit more about our approach to the project.
We're going to focus on the needs of Gulf County, which we think is primarily related to development. Our goal is to help the county work through the process, and this ultimately will help the county continue the development to continue to grow and develop. We're going to help to navigate any and all aspects of the process, which can be very complicated, including the fact that there's multiple agencies involved. Next slide. We understand the requirements related to Fish and Wildlife Service, who are going to be the drivers on this process. We maintain good working relationships with agencies. ERC always has. We're going to focus primarily on the coastal species. We'll look at any other species that might come into play, but we're going to primarily focus on coastal species. We think that it's primarily the St. Andrews beach mouse is going to be the main issue here. We're going to do a NEPA analysis. That's part of the process that's required through Fish and Wildlife Service. We're going to carry it out to the greatest extent possible and help them, which will help facilitate the process. We're going to use existing data, LiDAR, soils, any data that we can get our hands on. We anticipate we need to do some additional field work to verify habitat. We think that this is going to be a requirement ultimately. And Fish and Wildlife has their own internal requirements related to the Endangered Species Act, and to the extent possible, we're going to help them work through that process internally. Next one. We have specialists on staff who are familiar with Gulf County and familiar with the Endangered Species Act. One of our team members, he has a Fish and Wildlife Service permit for the St. Andrews beach mouse. What that'll do is it'll give us the ability to conduct surveys if necessary, to determine if there's individuals on habitat, or to help provide supplemental population data if that's necessary.
Again, to wrap it up, we live here, we work here, we have our corporate office here. We do not expect to move out of the area once we complete the process. And this is the biggest point we want to drive across. It is in our interest to complete this process and have this process work now for the county, and work 10 years from now for the county, and work 20 years now away from the county, so that the county can continue developing without hurting the environment, but allow progress to occur. We do have a very vested interest in a successful plan. And in our response, we did consider all possible scenarios, but I want to mention that not all components may be required. It may be that if cost is a consideration, some of the components do not have to be completed, and since our firm bills hourly, if I say jokingly, if it takes $25,000 to complete the project, so it does. We will only do the necessary work that's required to orderly and appropriately complete the process with county's interest in mind. We will again limit the cost and tasks necessary to complete the work, and our CEO is here to communicate with the county on a daily basis, visit with the county on a daily basis, be reached at all times, so that we can complete this in full communication and full cooperation with the county, as well as the regulatory agencies. Again, we will see this process through to completion. We cannot afford to leave the area and leave the process hanging in any way, shape, or form. We are not looking to have any cost overruns or tell the county that we have an unexpected process that we have not accounted for, and therefore we need additional funds or additional staff or additional support. We will get it done, and we will get it done very efficiently with county's interest in mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Attorney.
Ms. Lynn, do you have the other?
If you'll just give me just a moment to.
I would just ask, before you gentlemen go, is there any questions of the commission of the presenters? Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for this unexpected opportunity.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Keith Johnson. I'm with the firm of Wetland Sciences. We are based in Pensacola, Florida, in Escambia County. To the commissioners and the technical advisory committee and the members of the public, we certainly appreciate this opportunity to come present our response to the solicitation. And Ms. Lanier is so kindly trying to open our PowerPoint presentation here, and we'll get started. But just to give you a brief overview, my name is Keith Johnson. I'm one of the owners of the firm. Wetland Sciences was started and formed in 1993 by myself, my partner Craig Martin, and a former University of West Florida professor. We started the company, we left the university in '93 after a career in academia where we all worked for the Institute for Coastal and Estuarine Research, conducting both applied and basic research in coastal environments through the panhandle of Florida. Our firm is keenly familiar with coastal habitats throughout the panhandle. This familiarity with the coastal habitats is substantiated by our recent work completed on behalf of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Our firm was retained by the service to complete a comprehensive impact assessment to beach mice, all beach mice species, from Fort Morgan, adjacent to Mobile Bay in Alabama, all the way to the eastern end of Gulf County. That impact assessment was conducted and completed just recently 2 months ago, and it evaluated and quantified impacts to beach mice species from the oil spill response and recovery efforts. So this really much, demonstrates our familiarity with the species and with the habitats. Just to give you an idea, our firm, our clientele is a broad spectrum of clientele. We represent everyone from a single-family mom and pop, single-family homeowner, to small-scale developers, to national developers, including WCI and St. Joe, to also municipalities, including public utility companies like ECUA and Pace Water Systems, to large county governments like Escambia County. We've been a consultant of record for Escambia County for over 10 years now, assisting them with environmental consulting needs. I want to emphasize our familiarity with the habitats, but also our reputation with the agencies that are going to be responsible for reviewing the HCP. One of the primary sponsors of this HCP is the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. We've provided 6 letters of recommendations as part of our response, are from a broad myriad of individuals. This letter is from Benjamin Frater. Benjamin Frater was the former beach mouse lead for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. He was responsible for processing HCP and ITP applications. And I highlighted just a few of the sections of his letter, which demonstrates the U.S. Fish and Wildlife's strong feeling with regard to our company and his emphasis and on our ability to complete the project at hand. So I just wanted to highlight that and to demonstrate that we have a very strong relationship with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. We've garnered their respect, and they have acknowledged that with contracts to us involving the species. At this time, I'd like to introduce the rest of our team. Mr. Craig Martin, he's the president of the company, one of the co-founders of the company. He's going to carry the presentation forward and kind of identify the project. Thank you.
Thanks again, everybody. Just wanted to reintroduce our firm, local firm in Pensacola, well-versed in this process. We have GIS capabilities. We have John Himes, a PhD, a former Fish and Wildlife Commission species conservationist. He'll be full-time with the project. Tim Day, he's with Escambia County's coastal side. He's actually been shepherding the HCP in Escambia County, so he has some unique perspectives from both the stakeholders' view and the county's view, working with the agencies and the consultants. We have Dewey Blaylock. He's your local Gulf County guy. I've known him since we went to school at UWF. He's kind of a hands-on guy. Hopefully he'll be a regulatory local liaison. Of course, you met Keith just now. Well, real quick, we don't have to go over this too much, but the expected federally and state listed species addressed in the HCP for Gulf County will be similar to what we're dealing with in Escambia County, except for the top one, which is the St. Andrews beach mouse. We're dealing with the Perdido Key beach mouse up there. This is, as our previous firm discussed, this will be the trigger species for the work with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. This is the little guy that runs around the dunes that causes so many problems that we know so well from Perdido Key. So basically, most of your development is focusing in this guy's habitats. The sea turtles and shorebirds are mostly forward of that and not so complicated to deal with. So one thing of real consequence with us and considerable understanding is we've completed 16 coastal habitat conservation plans for the three species or three types of species we're talking about. These range from large national firms and huge resort development like WCI on the top. That was 106 acres with 30 acres of beach mouse impact, all the way to some mom and pop, small, single family, stern whaling, commercial, and so on. All these are located on Perdido Key. We're deep into the Perdido Key programmatic HCP for Escambia County. We're actually pushing that through with the Fish and Wildlife Service, helping them with their biological opinion. So really the big deal with the HCP, I know time's running out, it's an economic development tool. It gives everybody the ability to have a predicted project. Right now, if you go in with an incidental take permit, it could be 2 years. We don't know the mitigation strategies. We don't know how to deal with what the Fish and Wildlife Service wants. The HCP will lump all that together, one-stop permitting from you, the county. So people will know how much it's going to cost, where, how much they can impact, and so it'll speed up that process extraordinarily. The development needs these are the top 10 things, very, very standard. These are the same things we've been beaten down on in Escambia County. Pretty much not an issue. We can deal with all those. Facilitate everything impacts right-of-ways, beach driving, beach cleanup. Basically, your typical activities on the coastline, the HCP will facilitate. The only thing it won't will be federally mandated and federally permitted projects like beach restoration where you get a different permit. The process is pretty fair, straightforward and simple. Action area determination, Palm Beach and the south of St. Andrews State Park will be your action area. We've got critical habitat listed. You'll have suitable habitat and you'll have non-habitat. We'll have a field mapping exercise which will either designate suitable habitat or non-habitat. GIS production will allow the planning organization within Gulf County to group together that information and provide and keep track of it. Draft HCP development. Technical committee will be the federal and state agencies. Steering committee, which is a component which Gulf County will provide. Commercial neighborhood association, homeowners association, or other appointed by commission. Public workshops. Final draft U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service listing in the Federal Register, solicitor review for defensible, for making the permit defensible. Draft biological opinion, and then an incidental tank permit will be issued to Gulf County. Course plan references, this is from WCI on the left side, Fish and Wildlife on the right. WCI was the complicated 6-year incidental take permit, didn't have an HCP. Why us? We have over 10 years of North Florida coastal habitat species experience with successful execution and administration of 16 multi-species HCPs. We're a highly unique and dedicated and qualified team. You'll be working directly with each of us. We won't have anybody else. This is the people you'll be working with. We really have an unparalleled coastal habitat HCP specific references. Reviewing agencies have confidence in us. We've worked with the Fish and Wildlife Service for 10 years, and they know what we do and we know what they want. Ability to hit the ground running. We have all the documents, all the status, all the information that you may need to really kick this thing off. And then questions, Pretty Mouse and your coast. And, we appreciate this opportunity. I know it's somewhat controversial.
All right, thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Is that it? Any questions, Commissioner Miley, Commissioner McLemore? No, sir. All right.
I just get older and older.
We have heard all five. You, Mr. Attorney?
Mr. Chairman, to continue the recommendations of the Technical Advisory Committee, I'm just going to read the notes from the motion of their committee meeting last week. The first recommendation was to provide the commissioners, obviously, all the evaluation scoring, which has been done, as well as the RFQ, so you have all their work product. The second was to invite the two vendors to make their presentations in addition to the first three. And then the third recommendation was to submit to you as the county commission that they have found that all five vendors are technically qualified under their technical advisory committee charge and provided you their work product. And the recommendation was to present all five to you, for you all to make your analysis and then ultimately determine who the contractor you'd wish to award to.
Thank you. All right. Board members?
I have a question.
Sure.
We have one commissioner that's abstaining, but we also have one commissioner that's only seen 2 of the 5 presentations. So are we going to account for that in the voting?
Correct you. That's not correct.
Commissioner McLemore, I'll ask you a direct question. Did you view the presentation? I know you had to leave.
Yes.
Did you, the 3 presentations? Okay, back here.
So you did not leave at the last meeting?
No, he left. He says he's reviewed the 3.
I watched the videos on video.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. We've heard the 5. We've,
You have also the 5 committee members,
out
your
of,
technical advisory committees here too.
it's this board's decision. The decision falls on this board.
The recommendation was they found all 5 to be qualified. They provided you all their work product. They asked that you give the other 2 vendors an opportunity, and then for this commission to make their own evaluation and recommendation to who to contract with.
All right.
Are we going to do the scoring as we did last time, where we turn in our scoring?
I'm going to call for a vote today is what I'm going to do.
Well, I personally, now this was 2 weeks ago that we viewed the other 3. Now, we have 2 that are fresh in our minds. I would like to go back and review the literature from the other 3. This is something that came up very last minute. We had an amended agenda to add this. And if we want to do this properly, I think that we need to have time to go back, look at the other presentation. At least I still have their materials, and consider those before we vote.
Well,
Mr. Chairman, if I can comment?
Sure.
On the advisory committee, we have the total tally sheets. The commissioner, you're recommending to make it consistent with the original 3 evaluations of the commission. At this point, the TAC has made a recommendation to you all as a commission to ultimately make your final decision up or down. I can provide you those final tally sheets of the scoring. In addition, you've already received them. And then if you want to follow the protocol from the last meeting till close of business 5 o'clock today, I would encourage you all to take the same evaluation sheets, but we'll put all 5 vendors on them, and then the 4 qualified commissioners versus your 1, 2, 3, make your recommendations on who you ultimately do and give them to the county commissioner. TAC's turned over the evaluation sheets to you all for your review and your evaluations of their scoring. So it would be an upper, the TAC has recommended you all, that they're technically qualified, you make an up or down vote so we can move forward. I want to add also that the Fish and Wildlife has indicated that they're going to seek an extension on the grant. It's a year process. Most of the vendors have all indicated it's a year process, and we only have, I believe, 5 months left in the grant period. So one of the things we'll be doing is seeking an extension through Fish and Wildlife for this grant, so that whoever you do contract with, they'd have that ample time to perform the HCP.
All right, let me, when I got the agenda and saw that the two at the recommendation were going to be on there, I got up this morning early, reviewed the three other presentations. You can pull it right up on the computer there. So, you know, did you review them? You heard these two?
If there's no problem, I like to go with the recommendation of the attorney, just put all 5 of them on the sheet, and we do like we did last.
Well, we can just do that right here, or whatever, it's the board's discretion.
I
Go ahead,
can't
you-
see where.
Let me go back over here. Let's recognize the
I can't see
county.
where us putting in our scoring by the close of business today, as we did the last time, this is a big deal, and we should have the time to consider what we've seen, like we did after the last meeting. It's not going to make that big of a difference timing-wise if we do as the attorney has described, and as Commissioner Smiley has requested, that we turn in our scores by the end of business today. But I would like for you to clarify how you want us to provide that.
Again, the TAC has turned everything over. They're ready to move to the next phase. And I mentioned the TAC, it's your county staff, it's also Fish and Wildlife. They want to move to contract with a consultant. If there's an evaluation of all the material and all the presentations to give you the same opportunity to absorb what you heard today as well as 2 weeks ago, if you want to keep it consistent, I would encourage, and I would certainly welcome a uniform approach from this commission, from the 4 participating commissioners. I think a full board support of the process is positive. I would say take the scoring sheet we'll provide through the administrator's office by noon, take the 5 hours, submit to the administrator as a chairman of that TAC, the 1 through 5, but this is a vote up or down for your contractor. So I would encourage you all to rank them 1 through 5 on your sheets. The commissioner then will take those. If he has to come back in 2 weeks, and because there's a tie, then so be it. If there isn't, then he will come back, obviously, and you're authorizing us to contract with the highest scoring contractor. Is there any questions?
Question. All right, Commissioner Bryan here, she's wanting to say keep apples with apples, and we did, we've allowed these two come in, the 2 weeks ago when we heard the 3. We got a grace period in there, so we're still sticking to apples to apples. Now, I have one question.
Sir.
Apparently, in this scoring with these different groups, and we had some discrepancies on the numbers, and I saw them, and you got the sheet. If anybody out there wants to look at it, they're welcome to.
At our last TAC meeting, all 9, I believe.
8 of the 9.
8 of the 9 at the last meeting, we went through all of the criteria that was that had a discrepancy and cleared all of that up. Like I said, with the one question that we had in reference to how one of the members scored, and they weighted their scores, and we recognized that in the committee. And so all of those discrepancies have been cleared up, and that was the final tally sheet that you were given, was the corrected form. So the numbers did not change. The numbers did not change in which a different,
You received the updated, corrected tabulation sheet from the committee, which you all have. That is the final tally sheet. After they had their last committee, they clarified all their discrepancies. They provided you the tally sheets, and the final recommendation was to take their work product and that this commission make a determination as who they want to be their contractor.
All right, question here, let me ask this, and I'll recognize you. If we're going to go back to there, these 2 presentations are just, if you're gonna, are you gonna use the tally sheet numbers? And then
The committee,
base
again,
ours? Because if we're just gonna be the 5 of us or the 4 of us vote, There's no point in us voting in secret. I'd rather vote right here, and the public knows how I voted.
And I believe the commissioner was just asking for a couple hours to review all the work products, so, and it would be my recommendation, the committee is only an advisory. They
That's all.
were
They do not make a
evaluating
final decision.
the technical qualifications of each of these contractors. They've come back and unanimously said that they're all technically qualified. They've provided you all their scoring. To give the same opportunity to each of you commissioners, if the 5 hours give you, as you had the last time, to encourage you all to go back, rank them 1 through 5, same scoring. But ultimately, this will be an up or down vote. This is not going back to the committee again. The committee has turned all their work product over to you commissioners. You 4 commissioners will decide this, turn it over to the chairman, and the chairman will notify me who I'm supposed to contract with.
And I believe you're saying that our scores that we gave on the 3 last time would not be counted. What we would be doing is ranking them today, 1
All
through
5.
5. And this sheet is accurate.
Before you all leave, I'd ask Ms. Lanier just to provide
I'm
them
not
to you.
sure which one you have, but that final sheet that I sent to each of you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go with the attorney's recommendation on this. I think it can keep us out of trouble with it.
You want to put that in motion?
Yeah, I motion to
We will provide you all, it says revised 3/18/2014 from Ms. Lanier. It's in red ink. We'll provide each of you that before you leave the building today, as well as an evaluation sheet for all 5 vendors, and we'd ask you to provide them to the chairman before the close of business.
And the way I understand this, at the end of the day, I guess you and the attorney, maybe the chairman, y'all tally up the votes, y'all look at the votes, and whatever's high score comes out. Is that the way I understand this?
Now, are we going to want, just for more clarification, we got to get out of this gray area a little bit. We're going to be, is it going to be based on these 5 numbers down here?
No,
Or
sir.
are we going to pull more numbers out?
The committee has encouraged you all to take all their work product
All there.
into your
Okay.
consideration,
Okay.
and then you will all be provided a tally sheet.
All right.
Each of the 4 participating commissioners will rank them 1 through 5, provide them to the administrator before the close of business. That will tell the administration who to contract with moving forward. You commissioners ultimately, as you do with everything, have the final say on who your contractors are.
All right. Is everybody good and confused? Do I have anything else from the audience? All right, you have a motion on the floor with this recommendation, which we will follow right along in pursuit with
Second.
Commissioner Bryan. We got a second from Commissioner Bryan. Anything else from the audience? Any further discussion here with the not motion passed 4 with 1 abstention? Is that correct? That's correct. All right. No, we got one other thing. One other. That takes care of that. Public discuss, anyone from the public have anything they'd like to go the board with? I know we've had a very lengthy meeting this morning, but this is very important to us. If I don't have anything from the public, I have a motion to adjourn. Mr. McLemore over
You
here.
got it. Got a second on
Molly,
it
you
right
a
here.
second. Meeting adjourned now, gentlemen. All of them. Food here.
You're welcome. Thank y'all for coming.
No, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Ain't got time for you right now.